Hello, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous people. Welcome to our next community chat, our unscripted podcast. Today, the subject is one of my favorite subjects, which is deep, dark emotions that nobody wants to talk about. And it has been, there's something that is really, really deep and personal for me. Particularly because of the upbringing, the everybody has stories, and my particular story included not being having a very limited bandwidth of emotions that I was allowed to play in. And when it comes to emotions, I'm not like a little dolphin who sits and plays in the surface, which I can do. I love splashing about in the surface, but when it comes to emotions, and I love the depth of all emotions, whether it's joy, whether it's despair, whether it's whatever it is. And emotions are something that are becoming more and more important to me. And yesterday, our dear Norma shared Brené Brown. Brené Brown. I'd not heard of her before.
Wow. Yeah, she's
So
amazing.
thank you so much. I mean, wow. Just absolutely gorgeous. But I do love that expression about when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Because if I'd heard about her before, it would have landed very differently for me. So to kick off the our call, why shame and why guilt? And for me, the big question is, why is victimhood so prevalent in humans? And when we are victims, like of abuse or whatever it is, why do we feel shame? I had abuse as a child. I was a victim of abuse as a child, and shame was one of the things that it just stops you. It just stops you from feeling comfortable within your skin. It's so debilitating. But why would I feel that it was my fault? Like, where does that come from? So, I mean, I've been doing a lot of inner work, and I do realize that religious trauma played a really big role for me, because we grew up in a very religious family. And there was the illusion that God is a punishing God, and you will go to hell, or whatever it is. So that played a really big part in me, towing the line and being really obedient, and all that kind of stuff. And another really deep story that affected me incredibly was the Adam and Eve story, the one where men are weak and they can't help themselves, and women are just these evil temptresses. So these were two like major defining impressions on me in my early years, and it's taken a lot of inner work to be able to get through them. When we look at shame, it doesn't only play out in religions. It doesn't only play out in churches. It plays out in government. It plays out in how do we rally up the masses to become obedient. We see it in marketing. I mean, I got into marketing because of all the philosophy of it. I mean, it just fascinates me how the aspects of marketing work. You find the pain points and you really pressure, and then you give the solution to that. And everything to do with that is all about, there's something wrong with you, and when you buy our product, that'll then be fixed. But as we know, doing the inner work, that there is nothing that is outside of us that can fix what is missing within us. And this whole thing of shame also is woven through our social life, where socially we get to dance around like puppets. So there's little like puppet dance that we all have to do in order to be liked. There are certain things that we have to do, and we're not allowed to do that, we're not allowed to do this. And for me, it's all about like, why, where's the authenticity in this? And that has been a really big driver behind my growth, specifically the last few years. And if something is coming up, you're welcome to hop in. Otherwise, I'll carry on sharing my thoughts, and then we can open it up and have a chat afterwards. Which then led me to the thought: okay, if we're no longer a victim, then what are we? We then become empowered. This is my thinking anyway. We move from being a victim to being empowered. And how do we become empowered? And the breadcrumbs that I followed was taking radical self-responsibility. So, like, how can I possibly be responsible for all of the abuse that I've, how can I be responsible for being a victim? And that in itself was a huge big, like, what? Really? Why am I responsible for this? And then I got to the whole thing about, we actually signed up for this. It was a sole contract, it was agreement. So that kind of made sense for me. But there's still, where does the shame come from? Is it genetic? Does it sit in our DNA? Does it come from our ancestral line? And then if you look at epigenetics, which we're learning about, especially with like Dr. Joe's work and a lot of the other thought leaders and change makers, epigenetics is where this all comes in, because the epigenetics they sit above our DNA, and they basically tell our DNA what it needs to upregulate and downregulate, and that then creates the form and function of how we grow and develop. So that was an interesting thread. And then I was like, well, can we recognize like shame and guilt, for example, as a chemical compound in our body? Like oxytocin is the feel-good hormone. Is there such a thing for shame? Is there such a thing for guilt? And it's really interesting because this is still a new thing that I'm busy learning about. Where, as we know, our thoughts and feelings have this whole recycling loop, and our body is the processor. This is what does all of this. And I mean, it was very cool. Like, is empathy the neurochemical antidote to shame?
Mm-hmm.
How do we bring ourselves back to the 0 point? And what I'm coming to understand is, with us embodying and embracing our emotions, is that it's our body that is the alchemist. Our body has the ability to change the pain and the grief and the suffering, that when we sit with it long enough, and in my experience, and I've sat with quite a few big emotions, but when I really sit with it and I just let it go and let it express itself, that very often those emotions don't last long. And that's because I've learned how to listen to those emotions. And in this process of really listening, I've come to see that my body is the alchemist. My body is the one that is able to go, okay, you've been heard. Here we go. This is how we then move forward. And for me, that is how I get back to 0 point. But this is just my quick run through. And I also have a lovely, if you bear with me, which I think is a great way for us to open the discussion. I'm just going to share my screen because I've pulled up two of our favorite charts. Can you all see my screen? So on this this map of consciousness, I've actually included in our inner work mini course, which is on the website, and I love it because it really shows the energetic level of the different emotions. Excuse me. David Hawkins puts shame at the bottom with an energetic resonance of 20. I mean, 20. It's like wow. And then guilt is, slightly above at 30. And a really big thing, which Brené Brown also really specifies, that I'm seeing coming up a lot now, is shame. The big difference between shame and guilt is that shame is when we feel that there is something wrong with us.
Mm.
And guilt is when we acknowledge that there is something wrong that we have done. That, we have done something that we shouldn't have done. So it's an action rather than a state of being. There's a difference between being and doing. And the biggest aha that I got with shame is it's a lack of connection. And this was like a big, like, oh, oh, this is where possibly where shame comes from, is that it's our remembering that we've forgotten. It's in forgetting that we are divine beings. Feel a sense of shame because we are missing that connection with source, because we are feeling ourselves separate from source. It's like, whoa. That for me was like a big, okay. And then in our gorgeous book club, this one has come up this week, which is obviously gorgeous, where it shows the different levels of, and it's interesting that Dr. Joe, so he's got shame and guilt here. So it kind of ties up. I don't know if he used the Hawkins scale as an inspiration for his work. That's possible. I don't know, but it is really fun seeing the difference. And you can see over here where on the Hawkins scale, 200 is the change point where we move out of survival. And it's really cool with Dr. Joe, where you can see that he also has that part where we move out of survival into creative mode. And I love it that the speed of light is where that separation is from matter to energy. So it's just so interesting that our emotions, for me, are really becoming even more and more and more paramount in how we process them, how we receive them, how we listen to them. Cool. So that's where I'm at. I would love to hear your thoughts and your feelings and insights.
That was a huge amount. That was loads of information. So have you got a question within all of that? What's your remaining question from all of
so
your...
so the remaining question is, how do you see shame? How do you see guilt? How do you see working with these really deep emotions? What does it mean to you?
I would like to tell something that I learned about it, where the shame originally comes from. When we are small kids and we have not a good relationship to our parents. If there is no unconditional love or safe love, so you feel bad and you are so dependent from your parents, and you are as food to eat, the relationship, the bonding is equally important. So when there is a problem between the child and the parent, instead of losing the parent, you take you take it on yourself as a child to protect your relationship to your parent. And I think most of us have experiences like that. And one, it's installed, it rests the whole life if you don't do something against it or work with it. And I learned also there was a king, I don't know, in the 17th, oh God, my English, oh my God.
Your English is brilliant.
He wanted to try out, he make experiences with babies to find out how their development of language will be. So they told the nurses, the woman who gave the milk, only to feed them, but not to communicate with them, with the babies, to cut the relationship, only to nourish. Just to find out what are the impacts on the language development. And after a short period of time, the babies died. It's not only that they couldn't speak well afterwards, they simply died. And that shows how important is this good relationship between the child and the parent. It goes over everything. That's what's really also shocking me when I heard that.
That's huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, thank you for sharing
that. Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it? What you do to get rid of them. So I had, when I was a child, I was physically abused. My father used to lose his temper, and I don't think he ever did it to anybody else, but just me. And left me with feelings that it was always my fault. If anything went wrong, it was always my fault. Something, I must have done something. There's something going on in my life at the moment is bringing it, what is in again? I must have done something. I can't think of anything I did. I'm convinced what my belief is. And so this is the problem when you're a child. No matter how erroneous the belief is, there is a belief. And it takes quite a lot to get rid of it, doesn't it? I did lots of inner child things, and I found that was very helpful, sort of therapy-wise, because I'm a therapist. So most of our feelings when we're adults, the negative ones anyway, come from the message we had about who we were in the family, and I had to be careful not to get angry or anything. So consequently, I kind of merge into the background, and I kind of hide a bit, become invisible, and I don't get into confrontation with people. Because it frightens me. And now and again, I can feel this thing coming up about I must have done something wrong. I know I haven't, so I have to say, it's not true. So, yeah. Don't know, it's difficult. Do you say about Heidi, about the lack of contact? It did kill babies. There's no doubt that they did a lot of research on that, didn't they? They had to thrive. There had to be some goodness. I had my mother was okay. And I had a sister who smothered me. It's kind of made it worse. When I say something like, they don't love me, and she'd say, yes, but I love you. I didn't want her to love me. I wanted them to love me. So that's another thing, but pulling away from people. So lots of stuff going on, and knowing what it is does help.
Absolutely.
Not always completely, but it does help. And the shame also, there was a shame because what had I done? There must be something wrong with me because I was the only one. It must have been me. Yeah, this is a shame.
Thank you for sharing your vulnerability.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
it's the conditional love, trauma, you know, all of these just completely undermine us, especially when we are young and we don't have that analytical ability yet, because it's not been developed yet.
yeah, that's true. So really what we're doing is to become, especially with this chapter, isn't it? Nowhere, no time, no birth. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
good. Brené Brown, I've got a 5-hour recording on my phone. I've never listened to it.
Oh, wow.
I've always thought, oh, this is that one day, and I never have, but I will now. Because Margaret's into that. She likes likes her. Is she the one that says, "Who would you be without your story?" Brené Brown.
What were you going to say, Norma?
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt Marilyn. There's a little bit of jet lag on the line there. Brené Brown is amazing. She's written some beautiful books. She's got some really nice TED Talks that are quite short and a lovely introduction to her. And I think, I don't know, her definition of shame is, I did look it up somewhere. Hang on a sec. Let me see if I can find it. Because she's in her research, she's really very, very careful to give everything a very precise definition. So her definition of shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love, belonging, and connection. So she always, like any researcher, she always starts with a definition and then, she's interviewed, I don't know how many, but many, many, many different people just to hear their stories. And then she's done her research now, oh gosh, for years and years and years. So
what particularly struck me about that interview that you sent through with Stephen of the Diary of a CEO, that conversation in itself was spellbinding,
wasn't it?
because because it wasn't an interview. It was she was interviewing him as much as he was interviewing her, and just the relationship they had. They were both really so vulnerable. And it was such a beautiful, beautiful conversation and full of such rich nuggets. I'm so grateful you shared that. Thank you.
You should see Brené Brown working with Simon Sinek, who is one of my favorite
I
people.
love. Yeah.
And those two have done a lot of work together, and they're spellbinding as well, because they have let go of the desire to protect themselves when they feel these emotions. So they're people who are always pushing. I'm sure it's not easy for them, but they're always pushing themselves to be very open and curious and to learn, because shame is a universal, intensely painful emotion. And it's something that's really, really difficult, I think, for all of us to come to well, not even come to get to grips with. So you know, when Dr. Joe talks about emotions like shame, he's not treating them as little passing feelings. These are states of
Huge.
being. This is like huge, because our whole internal chemistry that lives in the body is keeping us anchored to these stories in the past. And to my way of thinking, Dr. Joe places shame in this group of what he calls survival emotions. They're sat in the lower three energy centers. They're linked to safety, fear, control, and definitely that sort of old, sort of familiar, at my age, very well rehearsed version of ourselves. And I mean, as you said, with you know, that scale of emotions in a book that's called Letting Go. So the secret in the title, and it's one of the lowest emotions in that whole spectrum, and it pulls our energy down. Shame is such an energy vampire. It makes us contract, it closes the heart, and it literally biochemically changes the way that the brain and heart are firing. So, and I was going back through over this afternoon, knowing that we were going to be talking about it. I'm thinking, okay, so, you know, what's my process for feeling shame, and what's my process for dealing with it? And it comes back down to this aspect of, I'm not good enough, I'm not capable. And I think well, certainly I got and get to this place where that feeling of shame in the body is so intense and it's so visceral. And then there's this sort of ping pong that goes on between the body and the brain, and that sort of vicious circle that I do honor this aspect of, you know, feel the emotions and then let them go. But they're emotions that I really don't feel are productive to allow myself to feel them for too long. So for me, it's important to frame shame as a past-based emotion that keeps us connected to the known and the familiar. And that will prevent me from stepping into a new future if I'm allowing that in my body. And obviously the body's complicit in this because it likes those old familiar habits. So it really is, you know, just that change and create these new habits of thinking and feeling differently. And, you know, I think Joe's really clear. He's, you know, he says we don't release shame by analyzing it or fighting with it. We dissolve it by teaching the body what a new future feels like. And he does this wonderful Q&A session on forgiveness. And I think the same applies to shame. You know, if we take our attention away from the past and we put our attention on what we want to experience and feel and create in the future, then we're teaching the body what a new future feels like, and the past stories begin to dissolve. So I think this aspect of change, or some people call it the stop process, you know, hundreds of times a day, like change. And it's like putting a young child or a puppy or whatever on the naughty spot, you know. You come back here instead. And I think it's, for me, releasing shame is about using the breath, blessing the energy centers, and feeling gratitude, love, and compassion. So it's through those elevated emotions and just taking attention away from them so that you can bask in the juices of the feel good chemicals. And the body finally learns that there's another way to live. Bit by bit, the survival chemistry loosens, the heart opens up, and I'm starting to feel that now, which is delicious. Energy rises, shame loses its grip.
That's lovely.
And it's not because we're pushing it away, I guess. It's because we're giving the body this delicious, beautiful, new emotional home where it can feel much happier. So shame's a habit of thinking and being, a memorized state that absolutely can be reconditioned, and that's the beauty of this work, and that's why I love it so much, because we can change everything, even primal feelings like that.
I think the mastery that we have is being able to recognize it and to recognize that this is what shame feels like, and to be able to give it a space and a place and go, okay. And it's that interrupting the that whole ping pong, as Norma is talking about it. It's just going, interrupting that, like, I hear you. I hear you, that you're here, because for me, things like shame, for example, often come up as a repetitive pattern, meaning it's something that I haven't fully processed yet in regards to in my idea, and I'm not a therapist. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. For me, when this comes up and I can recognize the pattern, so it's the pattern recognition for me is really, really important, to be able to recognize that actually this is this, and this for me is how it came about, or it's just come up out of the blue. Just to be able to recognize it, acknowledge it, say thank you for coming up, I trust you have a gift for me, and I appreciate the wisdom that you will give me. And then I listen to my body for that wisdom. And as Norma says, breath work is just amazing. And like, movement and yoga, and to be able to just let go of the grip, let go of that, that trying to control it, and or to repress it, or push it away is not helpful in my experience.
I got to know another method, like shaking these feelings, energy in the body, without analyzing, just to let the energy of the feeling moving through the body. And it's like a wave which is coming up, and you shake it in your body, and you feel it, you let it flow until it's enough, and then it naturally goes down.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, and it's really amazing. I did this the last month with all the feelings, and you also, in this shaking, you don't judge the feelings. These are good feelings, bad feelings. No, this is only energy, and you let it move, as long as it wants to move, and you try to get aliveness out of it. Aliveness, energy. You don't judge it. You celebrate. You are alive, and you can feel whether it feels good or bad. It doesn't matter. And I like this.
We have two beautiful ladies in NetNomads, Andrea and Adina, and they are specialists in TRM and this, what you're calling the shaking therapy. They are beautiful, beautiful practitioners in that. So maybe we could get Andrea and Adina to come
That'd be
and
a great idea, yeah.
talk about the work that they do. So I took part in one session with them one evening online, which was absolutely exquisite and so powerful. And just from, a process of what seemed like very simple, almost yoga-like movements. But at the end, my whole body was shaking and I released so much energy. It just felt absolutely delicious.
Wow.
It was lovely. So
Sounds great.
we need to ask them to come on and talk about
Yeah.
what they're doing. I think that would be a great idea.
That sounds fab. I love it because it really, Dr. Joe always, I think it's Dr. Joe, says that energy, well, emotions are energy in motion. And this is it. This is exactly it. It's just like getting that energy to move instead of just like trying to squish it down.
Again, makes us contract, the spine tightens, the breath stays shallow, the nervous system's aroused, and the energy can't flow as it's meant to. So yeah. And getting up and dancing and jiggling and shaking is just so lovely.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Is that also a similar principle with the EFT practice that you do, Norma? Is with the tapping? It how does that work with the emotions? Is it also in a physical way to move the energy?
Well, you're tapping on the meridian points. Tapping combined with the words just allows things in time, and it's usually certainly quicker than some other forms of therapy that you can use. It allows you to sense into the body to actually feel those feelings and let them go. So you can work absolutely content free using EFT. You don't have to, but you can. So just becoming aware of how those emotions feel in the body and sitting with them and just acknowledging them. It's extraordinary, but it's different, but it's a similar principle, I think.
And when you say content free, like the amazing session I had with you was just wow. What was that content free, or is it because I had a specific thing so it wasn't content free? What is the definition of a content free tapping session? I don't know.
Let's say someone's had a really, really shameful incident in the past and they struggle to talk about it. You can tap and say, this shameful incident in the past. I don't want to talk about it, but I can feel it in my body and it feels really bad.
Gotcha.
It's like a stabbing pain, it's a pain in my stomach, and I feel so much shame, but I can't bring myself to talk about it. And even just tapping and working on it in that way can allow it to go, because
It's amazing.
the person who's going through that process knows the story, can feel how it's feeling in the body. So the practitioner doesn't necessarily even need to know what's going on. It takes a lot of acuity and awareness, and you've got to watch someone because you're not getting the verbal signs that make it a bit easier. So you've got to really watch their breathing and their skin color and eyes and all sorts of different things. But it's about that person working through their stuff in their own way, on their own, if that feels safer for them to do it that way.
I combined it sometimes when I'm meditating and I don't feel good, and I can't not let go and go in the void because my mind is struggling so much. Sometimes I start at the same time to do this tapping, and it's really helpful. Yeah, you also to do it on your own. During meditation, I do also sounding sometimes, and everything I know. Yeah.
And just acknowledging what you're feeling. You don't need to try and do anything with it, but just this like, shit, this feels so awful. I feel terrible. I hate feeling like this. Just acknowledging all of that really helps. And it doesn't matter about the sequence. If you miss one out, it doesn't matter. You know, it's just, I think all of these things can really help us a lot.
I mean, the more I'm learning and uncovering and discovering, I'm just blown away by our bodies. How they are the alchemists of being able to take deep, raw, horrible, icky, blech emotions like shame, and then just go, okay, just accept it, acknowledge it, and it can just melt away. I mean, I've been going, you know, I've carried this with me for more than 50 years. And now I was just like, oh, you know, like, our bodies are amazing. And we are so blessed to be living in this time where we have communities like this, where we have spaces like this, where we have the tools, you know, that we have the gorgeous tapping sessions, that we have the, what are those other sessions called with the dancing, the shaking?
Tray.
TRM.
Shaking.
Well, they call it tray where I live. But then, I mean, even the EFT, it was given away by Gary Craig. He didn't sell it to anybody. He gave it. I remember getting a sort of an 80-page printout from a friend who found it, and he told me everything I needed to know. I've hugged Gary Craig. When you go to work, you know, when you go to a workshop, he's still working. But it was his baby. It's because he's an electronics engineer and he knew how the circuits work in the body.
Wow.
And a bit like the either chiropractors or electronics engineers, these people that come up with these fantastic things. And there's havening. That's totally content free. And I like doing that. I've done that on my children's, you know, my grandchildren. They obviously don't want to tell me what it is, but they tell me when it's gone, which is.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah, we are lucky. We're lucky. We have so much information.
Yeah,
Generous people to just give it to us. Like Brené Brown. There's just, you know, you haven't bought anything, but you can still have the information. It's really special, isn't it? Yeah.
Elizabeth, would you like to share anything? If you want to, there's no pressure.
Sorry, I think I've managed to unmute it now. What can I add? I think maybe the opposite to shame would be courage. And I think over the years, I've just become a lot wiser. So I can manage my the feelings that I choose to take on better. Like I feel like maybe for those people that are around me, I notice that they can try and place shame upon me, but I don't accept it anymore. And I don't know how I've come to this place, but I'm in this space now, where I don't feel that anymore, and I have got I'm able to, I don't know, to reframe what they say, and to receive things differently to how I used to. I remember like sort of a couple of examples, like when I was getting divorced, family telling me, don't let these people know what you're going through, or that you're no longer with this person. And I was just listening to them and thinking, wow, they're the ones that feel the shame and are ashamed, as opposed to me. So it was quite interesting being able to, rather than receive it, to turn it back to them. I didn't have the conversation with them, but I was able to recognize that. And then with different paths I've taken in my life, how I can be excluded from a lot of things. And sometimes then explain why, the times, yeah. And I'm able to not take on their emotions that they're feeling, and be able to keep them separate and not absorb that into my body for whatever reason. My body is not taking it in anymore.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so it really is powerful. Like, you know, like I've done work with tapping before. I've done lots of courses on positive thinking and reframing what someone says. It's not always about you, it's about them and their stuff and their beliefs. You know, I think just being aware that actually just because someone has projected certain things onto me, I don't have to accept it. And I don't need to argue it either. Like sometimes I might feel, to be honest, angry with them and annoyed that they're with what they're doing. So perhaps it has had some impact on me to some extent, but not to a way where I ever feel ashamed now, ever. With
Amazing.
Yeah, so I think like all of this work definitely helps, all of the reading that we do, and just I think trying to keep basking in better feelings, and knowing that these other emotions don't serve us. And how do I want to feel? Yeah, for me, I think it's been around the right people, which really will help me. But even when you can't choose those people and you have to have others in your life, it's like there's different points in your life where you can manage being around those sorts of people, and other times where you can't. And I think I'm perhaps in a better space now that I can actually allow them to be there and not allow it to affect me anymore, which is nice.
It's amazing.
That's
empowerment.
Yeah, I think it is to some extent. Yeah, like I could never I don't know, like how you talk to someone, how you can frame things to try and get them to understand why you're doing what you're doing helps. And other people have quite deep-rooted beliefs as well, whether it be because of religion, culture, and it's quite hard to shift that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, is it our place to shift anybody else anyway?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just ourselves we should be working on. That's right.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. It's beautiful. Well done.
Thank you.
I mean, the amount of work that we've done to be able to get to the place where we are, where we're seeing the benefits of using all these tools. You know, we are the embodied wisdom of everything that we've learned because we're putting it into practice. You know, we've know where we have come from, and we've learned and practicing and trying and experimenting, and oh, that worked, that didn't work, you know, this didn't work, and with every, you know, different way that we look at things, we are, you know, embodying this wisdom. And everything that we change for ourselves, we're changing for the morphogenic field. It's just amazing. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much. Would anybody like to share anything before we wrap it up?
No, I think it is really lovely to hear different people's experiences and thoughts on it. So thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you very much. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'll sorry, go ahead, Ida.
I just wanted to tell, because at the beginning you told something about the shame. When you have too much shame, you are not connected to yourself anymore. And that reminded me of a situation I had a few months ago. I had a friend of mine was visiting me at my home, and I was very happy that she came, and but I felt very weak, so not in a good shape. I had low energy, and then I started to feel ashamed because I thought I can't be a good Gastgeber, host. I can't be a good host. It was in the situation I couldn't listen to her because I had a strange mind. I was overwhelmed. It was too much for me. I didn't feel good, and I had such a bad feeling from that I am in that state, and that I could not be there for her as much as I wanted to be. And on the top, at the next night, I couldn't sleep very well. It got worse. It was really awful. And then in the morning, she was sleeping, and I started to meditate and to tap. I did everything. I was so as messy in my head and my feelings, everything. It was so bad. But then I said to myself, just continue to go in the field and to tap. And I was crying, and yes, I was going through all this struggle, and then at a certain point it got better, and then everything got clearer, and I could accept my state and everything, and I didn't felt so bad anymore to be a bad host. And yeah, I think during the meditation and all that I did, I got the connection back to myself,
Lovely.
to my true self. Yes, that was the situation I remembered when you told this at the beginning.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And I could do on my own. I was very proud afterwards. And I could tell her everything afterwards, how strange I am, and what I experienced all. And then we had a good time. And then we had a good time, but it was,
That's amazing.
it was
Wow.
incredible. process.
That's incredible. Wow. Well done. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. Well done.
Oh, it's been a delicious conversation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to wrap it up, and then we'll I'll turn this into an article, and we can relive all this gorgeous information again. Thank you, everybody. Lots of love. Enjoy your evening. Bye.
Bye.